Russia is accused of using kamikaze drones in Ukraine as part of a widening campaign targeting Ukrainian cities. And the alleged source of the UAVs is raising concerns that other countries could soon start taking sides in the conflict. The Ukrainian military says Russia is using Iranian-made Shahed-136 drones. Smaller, cheaper, and more maneuverable than missiles, the UAVs are reportedly being used in the capital Kiev, Zaporizhzhia, and Kharkiv. Ukraine's President Zelensky says Russia has ordered 2,400 Shahed drones from Iran. Tehran denies it supplied drones to Russia for its attack on Ukraine, with Moscow echoing that claim. Meanwhile, Ukraine's foreign ministry says it's moving to cut diplomatic ties with Iran over the alleged UAV attacks. Russia and Iran have worked together militarily for years in Syria, supporting Bashar al-Assad's regime. And now concerns are growing that Tehran's support for Moscow could draw in countries like Israel. And for more on the growing military cooperation between Russia and Iran, I am joined from London by Khalil Dewan. He is a drone researcher at the University of SOAS, and by Abdulrasel Dil-Salar. He is a non-resident scholar at the Middle East Institute and is joining me from Rome. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Abdulrasel, could you talk to us about the significance of alleged shipment of Iranian short-range missiles and more drones to Russia? What do you make of it?
Well, that's a good question. It's quite important for three reasons. First, I think Russia, after facing with such a prolonged war, is seriously struggling with its stockpile of long stand of missiles, particularly the Kalibr and Iskander missiles, which we have seen them being used by Russians in the first phase of the war in large numbers. So there is a kind of a decline in Russian stockpile of long stand of capability. And that's why I think Iranian drones are playing a pivotal role for maintaining Russian strategy, especially this new round of strategy, which is targeting infrastructures and electricity grids. So the second operational reason, I think, is about the fact that these are cheap drones supplied in big numbers, thousands. Yes. And each cost not more than $20,000, and they are perfect assets to consume Ukrainian air defense capability and to make them busy. Yes. for various reasons that are obvious, and that it will pressure the logistical capability of Ukraine and the Western supporter of the war. So, and the third reason is the psychological impact of that, on the population, the terror impact that it will have on a broader Ukrainian population.
So, Khalil, what would Russia's accusation of Iranian missiles and drones mean militarily? I mean, is this a sign of vulnerability, or, as Ukraine's President Zelensky said, it showed Russia's military was bankrupt?
Yes, so I think, first of all, it's good to make a distinction. It's a complex matter, of course, under military warfare, but also the Shahed-136 is actually a loitering munition. And the only difference is that it has fixed wings and a motor, which enables it to hover in the sky for hours on end, and then it can engage its target. And in a very kamikaze fashion, it doesn't have the capability to come back to a base. It doesn't have an EOIR sensor like a drone has. And it requires a whole ecosystem of military support for it to work, for it to also be impactful in the kill chain. And also, it's not just one weapon system, but also Iran has provided other types. So there's also the Shahed-131, which the Ukrainian army have looked into, and they found that it has been upgraded by the Russian military to prevent jamming and to prevent it from completing its mission. So at the end of the day, I think, when we look at the weapon systems that have been delivered to Russia by Iran and also the Revolutionary Guard Corps, etc., they have actually been upgraded to have global navigation satellite services, yes, which isn't previously seen in these. And this is highly impactful on the battlefield.
So, Abdulrasel, what do you make of the emergence of Iranian drones as a central weapon in Russia's attack on Ukraine? And is it likely to expand its military role in the broader region?
Obviously, that was a very controversial decision by Tehran because basically this signaling that it is ready to impact, to extend its influence over some European theaters. But I'm a bit skeptical that Tehran, at this point at least, will decide to extend this more than what it has done so far. So basically, what I mean is that we need to look at the news about possible delivery of missile, Fatah missile and other types that have been claimed by the American sources at this particular point of time for various reasons, particularly for the deniability reasons, for the international costs that it and implications that it may have. But yes, that basically shows that Iran is a military power capable to impacting beyond the Persian Gulf region and its very close neighborhood.
So, Khalil, Ukraine has been asking for a long time for long-range American missiles, but it seems the U.S. is holding back. Why? Does it fear their use would escalate the ongoing conflict?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a direct confrontation from the American administration and also the Russian administration, but also the Iranian, positionality as well. But also Israel is also flirting with Ukraine to sell some counter UAV weapon systems. And I think it's important to mention that Iran will be actually delivering the Fateh 2 missiles as well as the Zulfikar missile. These missiles are a family of missiles which have been proven in conflict landscapes such as Yemen by the Houthi movement, and they have been very effective on the ground against Emirati-backed forces and others in the south. And to be honest with you, even striking critical infrastructure in Saudi Arabia. So if these missiles are to be delivered, then there will be a completely different dynamic on the ground for the Ukraine-Russia conflict.
So, Abdul-Rasul, as Khalid mentioned, Israel has hinted it would give military aid to Ukraine after Russia launched serious attacks across the country. So, and in response, former Russian President Medvedev warned this would be a reckless move and that would destroy ties between the two countries. Where is this headed? And at the moment, what is at stake for Israel?
Look, I think there are some factors contributing to this decision by Israelis. First is the declining resources of Russia in Syria, which basically reduces Russians' leverage and over Israel and response capability in case of Israeli decision to deliver arms to Ukraine. But at the same time, I think Russia reaction might also be limited by the fact that there are many Russians in Israel, and there are a growing movement of Russian people also in Israel. So that complicates the decision. All in all, I think toward the Israeli decision, there is some sort of limit because also Israel also does not looking for direct confrontation with Russia at this moment. So we should wait until seeing precisely what sort of capabilities, what sort of weapon systems Israel will provide. My guess is that they will be mostly air defense capabilities which might somehow impact Russian strategy of impacting infrastructures in Ukraine. But we need to wait and see.
So, Khalid, could you talk to us about the complexity of international relations when it comes to Iran supplying Russia with drones, while Russia permitting Israel to regularly bomb Iranian and pro-Iranian forces in Syria? What kind of a political and military equation we're talking about here?
Absolutely. It's a very complex political, but also military dynamic which is unfolding. Israel as well as Iran are experts in their fields. Israel come with a huge counter UAV and counter missile weapon systems expertise. And in the same time, Iran are very good at target acquisition, and they have capabilities that others don't, for example, satellites. And this is really and truly the end game conversation. Whoever really focuses and controls satellites within space, controls remote warfare. In terms of drone warfare and so on and so forth. And if we look at other commercial entities which are in the space of Ukraine, for example, Starlink, and there was some conversation with Starlink in the last couple of weeks, The reason for that is because militaries, including those who are using other states as surrogates, are paying off or have agreements with commercial entities as well as other military entities to provide military acquisition targets. So the question really should be, to what extent is Iran actually providing support to Russia?
Yes.
And based on previous military dynamics, for example, in Syria, we've seen a huge alliance of convenience, if you like, though they have diverging interests, but they are supporting Assad in Syria and their governance. And I would not be surprised to estimate that, actually the IRG are actually on the ground in Russia supporting the military to also acquire these targets and support them in the usage of these weapon systems.
So, Abdulrazak, could the latest military agreement help Iran to gain some leverage on Russia? And very quickly, why do you think China hasn't emerged as Russia's military partner?
Well, about the first question, I think it's I'm doubtful that if Iran's security assistance to Russia will bring something tangible for Iranians in return, because of various reasons, particularly because of the Russians' own resource deficit in arms production, and that basically limits Russia's capability to export new high-end advanced capabilities to Iran in future. So there is this big policy question in front of Iranians, that how they're going to gain a leverage and what that leverage exactly mean for them by sending these drones, while the cost side is much higher for international condemnation and many other reasons. Well, on the Chinese point, I strongly believe that China has a very clear strategy of engagement with the world, mostly based, outside its zone of vital interest, which is East Asia. China has a policy of going with development plans and focusing on economy. So it's not so much keen to engage in let's say military conflicts in this way that might have economic and developmental costs for its longer-term strategy. While in the eastern parts, in East Asia, that is a different case because of the very wide strategic importance of those regions from Taiwan for China.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.